Welcome to episode 137 of Gods and Heroes of Ancient Greece. My name is MyLinda Butterworth, and today we continue with the tale of Odysseus and the story of Odysseus and the Phaeacians. When Odysseus left the sacred grove, the girl had already arrived in her father's palace. Athene protected him all the way to the city. For fear that a bold Phaeacian might offend the unarmed stranger, she veiled him in mist, though he himself did not notice this. When he drew near the gates, she could not refrain from confronting him, so she assumed the shape of a young girl carrying a pitcher to draw water. "My child," said Odysseus to her, "would you show me the way to the palace of King Alcinous? I am a stranger from a faraway land, and no one knows me here." "Gladly," said the goddess in the guise of the girl. "My own father lives close by, but walk quietly at my side. The people here are not fond of strangers. Their adventurous seafaring life has made them bold and defiant." With these words, Athene led the way, and Odysseus followed, and no one at all could see the two. He could admire the harbor, the ships, and the high walls undisturbed. Then Athene spoke. "This is the house of Alcinous. Enter without fear. He who is brave succeeds. But let me give you one piece of advice. Go to the queen before all. Her name is Arete, and she is her own husband's niece. For our former king, Nausithous, son of Poseidon, and Periubia, daughter of Eurymedon, king of the giants, had two sons, Alcinous, our king, and Rhexenor. Rhexenor did not live long and left one daughter, Arete, our queen. Alcinous honors her as much as a man can honor a wife, and all the people hold her in reverence too, for she is wise and understanding and can even judge in the quarrels of men. If you can win her favor, all will be well with you." So said Athene and hastened away. Odysseus stood motionless, entranced by the beautiful palace before him. It was high and dazzling as sunlight. On either side of the gate, the walls were of solid bronze with a cornice of bluish metal. A golden door closed off the inner house. Its silver posts rose from a threshold of bronze. The lintels were also of silver, and the handle of gold. Dogs of silver and gold, the work of Hephaestus, stood right and left like palace guards. When Odysseus entered the hall, he saw chairs covered with rich and delicate tapestries. On these the lords of that country sat at the board. The Phaeacians loved much feasting and drinking. On high bases stood the golden statues of youth. Their hands were extended and held burning torches to light the banquet. 50 women servants were in the palace. Some ground grain in a hand mill, others wove, and still others sat and turned the spindle. The women in that country were as good at weaving as the men at sailing. Outside the court was an orchard, 4 acres in size, circled by a fence and planted with trees bearing juicy pears, figs, pomegranates, apples, and olives. There was fruit both winter and summer, for the warm west wind always blew over the land. Often, in the same season, some trees were just bursting into bloom, while others were already covered with fruit. Near the orchard was a vineyard with clusters of grapes swelling in the sun. Others were being harvested, and some were still quite green and hard, or just taking on color. At the other end of the garden, flowers bloomed and shed their sweet odors, and a spring gushed from the ground and wound through the shrubs and blooms in a crystal stream. Another spring rose at the very threshold of the palace court, and here the people came to fetch water. When Odysseus had gazed his fill at all these splendors, he entered the palace and went to the king's great hall. Here the nobles of the land had gathered at a banquet, but because the day was drawing to a close, they were beginning to feel drowsy and were about to end the feast by pouring a libation to Hermes. Shrouded in mist, Odysseus traversed the rows of banqueters, but when he reached the king and queen, Athene lifted her hand, and the cloud melted from him. He threw himself down before Queen Arete, clasped her knees, and said, "O Ariadne, daughter of Rhexenor, as a suppliant I lie before you and your husband. May the gods give you life and happiness as surely as you will give me help to return to my native land. For it is a long time that I have been wandering in exile, far from my own people." So said the hero, and sat down in the ashes of the hearth, close to the glowing fire. The Phaeacians looked at him in wondering silence, but finally, gray-haired Echeneus, oldest among the guests and versed in the ways of the world, turned to the king and spoke. "Truly, Alcinous," he said, "it is not fitting anywhere on earth that a stranger should sit in the ashes. I am certain that all agree with me and are only waiting your command. So raise the stranger from the dust and sit him in a comfortable chair like ours. The heralds shall bend wine for a libation to Zeus, the guardian of hospitality, and the servants offer our new guest food and drink." The king was well pleased with these words. He took the stranger by his hand and led him to a chair at his own side, when Laodamas, his favorite son, had to vacate. All was done as Echeneus had advised, and Odysseus feasted with the rest as an honored guest. When a libation to Zeus had been poured, the assemblage broke up, and the king invited them back for the next day. He did not ask the stranger his name or his line, but promised him hospitality in the palace and a safe return home. But as he looked at the hero on whom Athene had shed a glow of unearthly radiance, he added, "Should you, however, be one of the immortals who sometimes visits the feast of men in human form, you will not need our help, and it is we who must ask your protection." "Do not believe that for an instant, O king," said Odysseus. "Neither in stature nor in shape do I resemble the gods of Olympus. I am a mortal like yourself, but an unhappy mortal. Show me the man you think the most luckless on earth, and I shall prove to you that my misfortune exceeds his. When I entered the palace, I thought of nothing but satisfying my hunger at your board, and from this alone you can see that I am a poor mortal man." When the guests had left, and the queen and king were alone in the hall with the stranger, Arete studied his tunic and mantle and recognized her own workmanship. "I must ask you a question, stranger," she said. "Will you tell me who you are, from whence you come, and who gave you these garments you are wearing?" Odysseus replied with a truthful account of his stay with Calypso on Ogygia, his disastrous journey, and his encounter with Nausicaa, who had dealt so generously with him. When he ended, Alcinous smiled. "My daughter did quite right," he said, "but she was remiss in one point. She should have brought you to us herself." "Do not reprove her for that, O king," said Odysseus. "She was eager to do as you say, but I myself refused, partly out of shyness and partly because I thought that you might be vexed, for mortals are full of mistrust." "Never should I be vexed without reason," said the king, "but order is good in all things. Now, if it were the will of the gods that a man like yourself should ask my daughter to wife, how gladly would I give you a house and possessions. I shall, however, not keep you here by force. Tomorrow you shall have help to go wherever you wish, even if it is as far away as the most distant island we traffic with." Odysseus received this promise with deep gratitude, bade his royal host good night, and rested from his hardships on a soft couch. Early the next morning, King Alcinous summoned his people to an assembly in the marketplace of his city. He took his guests there with him and sat side by side with him on polished stones. In the meantime, Athene, in the shape of a herald, went through the streets, calling the citizens to the council. They streamed from all directions, and the marketplace soon filled with an eager throng. Admiringly, they looked at the son of Laertes, whom Pallas Athene had lent more than human majesty and stature. In a solemn speech, the king commended the stranger to his people, and asked them to put at his disposal a good ship with 52 Phaeacian oarsmen. He also invited the lords to a banquet in honor of his guest, and gave orders to Demodocus, to whom Apollo had given the power of song, should attend to gladden the hearts of his guests with his verse. When the assembly was dissolved, the oarsmen made ready the black ship as the king had commanded. They brought the mast, attached the shining sails, and spread them wide, and rested the oars in leather loops. Then they went to the palace. The halls and the courts were already swarming with guests, for young and old had come. 12 sheep, 8 boars, 2 oxen had been slaughtered for the feast, and the smell of roasting meat hung in the air. The singer, too, had arrived, led by the herald, for Demodocus the Muses had given both good and ill. They had taken from him the light of his eyes, but had lit his heart with song. The herald guided him to a chair at the pillar in the middle of the hall. He put his lyre where the blind man could easily reach it, and set before him a table with food and a brimming cup. When the feasting was over, the singer began his tale. He sang of the heroes of Troy, whose fame had already spread over the world, and above all of the courage of 2 heroes whose names were on all lips, Achilles and Odysseus. And here is where I end my tale for today. But I'll be back with more tales, many more tales. Until then, my friends, enjoy the journey.